Okay, guys, it's my very tremendous honor. I got to do this a couple times already. I get to introduce Jim, but I know a lot of you have seen his posters on our wall. He's a real great individual. We got to sign there too, Jim. Welcome, Jim.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
No way. No way.
Graduate of Michigan State University. Developed 3 national programs dealing with youth, women, and returning veterans. Has appeared on ABC, NBC, CBS National News, The Today Show, Chilling with Mr. Peace, and The Oprah Winfrey Show. Has been featured in Newsweek, US Today, Business Week, Chicago Sun-Times, Washington Post, the Los Angeles Times, Newsday, Detroit Free Press, Detroit News, and the New York Times. Was invited by 14 world leaders to talk about the breakdown of families. Has been the subject of a nationwide documentary show in Japan. Tuman believes in balance in his life, and so has done such diverse things as being a circus clown, rodeo rider, symphony musician, cake decorator, and parade enthusiast. Served as a famine relief worker in Ethiopia, worked as a roadie with the rock group Journey, passed a milestone of speaking to more than 2 million students in more than 2,000 schools nationwide. Named Detroit News Michiganian of the Year in 2000. Please welcome, guys. This just begins the long list of what this guy's done in his life. But please welcome Jim Tuman.
Who's the most important person you know? 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 Outside of your relationship with the Lord, who's the most important person that you know? Why was that so difficult for some of you here this evening to say that you were the most important person that you knew? Virtually every one of you here tonight can influence thousands of people in your life. Again, what are you going to be able to give to somebody if you don't feel good enough about yourself to believe that you are important? I was coming back from Chicago after being on the road for 5 straight days, working at this level of intensity to groups of 1,000 or more. And I've always worked without a mic because my voice projects. But this time, my voice was just shot. And I just wanted some peace and quiet. I didn't want to really talk to anybody. I found this restaurant 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. All the lunchtime crowd had gone. Grabbed a newspaper, walked all the way down to the last seat of the counter, and literally wanted to tune out the world. Didn't want to talk to one single person. And I'm sitting there, reading the newspaper. Obviously, you can't even begin to talk above a whisper. And a guy walks in. He could have picked any seat at the counter. Instead, what he does is he walks all the way down and sits down right next to me and starts talking. Well, you know how someone invades your space, how uncomfortable it feels? Well, that's what I felt that day. And I kept on tuning him out, reading the newspaper. Well, he kept on talking. And you know, everyone, how sometimes a word or a phrase or a gesture catches you? That's what happened that day. Turned out the guy was 36 years old. He had built a computer business in Northern California into a multi-million-dollar business. 4 weeks before he met me, he walked into his doctor's office for a routine annual company physical. Doctor called him up 3 days later, told this guy he had leukemia, less than 6 months to live. This guy was just blown away. He had all the stuff he could possibly want. He had a home overlooking the Pacific Ocean, cars, the boats, everything. Now he didn't have the time to be able to enjoy any of these things. And he was so courageous. What he decided to do was he decided to sell every single material thing he owned and just take off, going all over the country, just getting a chance to see the things he never got a chance to see, working 16, 18-hour days, certainly talking to people like me. And I was so moved and so touched what this guy was sharing with me, that I actually walked out to my car, sat down, inside the car, behind the steering wheel, and found myself crying. In 1 hour, this guy influenced me more than people who have been in my life for 30 years. Every one of you here tonight has that opportunity. Again, what are you going to be able to give to somebody if you don't feel good enough about yourself to give them something? The unfortunate thing, and you're looking at somebody who's truly guilty of this, is that sometimes we are all so busy allowing other people to dictate how we should feel about ourselves that we can't see our own value. Let me show you something. Sorry. First name. Paige. Paige, let's assume, Paige, that everybody that came here tonight, that we all got together, Paige, and decided that you were absolutely the ugliest person we had ever seen in our whole lives. I mean, beyond ugly. And all through the evening, everybody's whispering, wow, there goes Paige. She is so ugly. And it kept on going when you went back to school, and even when you went home tonight, your parents locked you in the bedroom for 2 hours because you're so incredibly ugly. I'm watching you get real red-faced, get real embarrassed. Tell me the truth, Paige. How do you feel if enough people tell you you're ugly? Bad. Actually, everyone picked on Paige. Paige is attractive, so Paige, let's take the complete opposite side. Let's assume, Paige, that we all got together and said, wow, Paige is a great friend. She's always there when I need her. She always seems to care. She always understands. How do you feel if enough people tell you you're great? Good? Everyone, what do we do to Paige in the span of 30 seconds? We took her from feeling badly about herself to feeling good about herself just because all of you guys have decided that's how she should feel. And you buy into it. You allow it to happen. I spent so much of my time when I was at school keeping people away. Don't get too close to me. Maybe you'll find out that I'm weak. Don't get too close to me. Maybe you'll find out that I'm insecure. Don't get too close to me. Maybe you'll find out that I'm afraid. I spent so much of my time like that, when the very thing I wanted to do was to let people in. But see, my family was going through an angry divorce, and I was caught in the middle of it. And in my family, love was based on performance. So the more I performed, the greater the love. And there was always that fear one day, what happens if I don't perform? Will there really be any love? Will there really be any love? And I was so scared that people were going to come into my life, see something that they didn't like, and then leave. Then leave. So what I did was I put the walls up. I didn't want them to see what was going on inside me. I was so afraid. So afraid. And it was such a struggle to get through those years because I was always waiting for the axe to drop. I was always waiting for someone to discover, well, hey, he isn't, what we thought he was. So many of us live with that every day. So many of us have that challenge. And so many of us have no clue what's really important in our lives. Let me show you something. It's Christmas morning. And let's presume there's a car in your driveway that you always dreamt that you wanted to have. And there's a huge bowl. And you walk outside and you say, wow, is that for me? Really? Is that for me? What kind of car would you want? Mustang. Tell me what color you want the Mustang. Blue. Christmas morning. Same scenario. You walk outside, car, big bow around the car, always what you wanted. What kind of car would you want? Lamborghini. What color you want the Lamborghini? Yellow. Okay. Let's for a minute assume that both of you've really got these cars. You've really got these cars and they are in your mind. singularly the best thing you've ever owned. Ever owned in your whole life. And you've driven them here tonight. And at the end of this, you're going to go out, maybe pick somebody that you really care about here, and you're going to take off in these cars. And you love these cars. That's it. That's it. Now let's take it one step further, guys. Let's assume that I'm driving through the parking lot with an enormous crane, with a wrecking ball on the crane. And I get to your Mustang, probably loaded these days, $45,000, $50,000, and I take the wrecking ball and I swing it back and I go, wham! Rip off the entire front end of that car. Just rip it off. Drop it on top of that car. Parts are all over the parking lot. All over the parking lot. Take the Lamborghini, $150,000 to $200,000. Take the wrecking ball, just rip off the side doors. Just rip them off. Drop it on the top of that car. Parts are all over the lot. Then to add insult to injury, I take it and I swing it back and I go wham, wham, wham like a riveter. So if there is a back seat to that Lamborghini, it is now the front seat of the Lamborghini. There's no insurance on these cars, guys. None whatsoever. You got 41 months of payments left. In the case of yours, $5,000 to $10,000 a month. You guys are standing in front of these cars, looking at the wreckage, and surely glaring back at me. I'm going to get into my car, guys, and as I pass both of you, pulling out of the parking lot, I'm going to smile and wave to you guys. Smile and wave. Assuming no one is going to come down on you for anything. There is no right or wrong, no judgment issues. 100% clean slate. What would you want to do to me physically before I got out of that parking lot? And how would you see hurting me? Give me an idea. What would you want to use to hurt me?
Parts of my car.
Good stuff. Okay. Same question. You're going to walk away, no conscience issues. You're going to walk away and you're just going to, actually just going to stroll away. There'll be nothing that anybody ever comes back at you for. What would you want to do to me physically? I just destroyed about a $175,000 car. What would you want to do to me physically before I walked away? And how do you see hurting me severely?
Taking the wrecking ball.
Taking the wrecking ball. Okay, guys, rock and roll on that one. But guys, everybody else here, let's assume this. Guys, if these cars were the only reason you had friends, if these cars were the only reason people liked you for, if these cars were the only image that everybody else in the world saw you through, guess what? I've actually just destroyed both of you. Your history, you are no more. So here's the challenge for all of us. If you need the stuff in your life to make you feel good about yourselves, somebody at some point in your life can take that all away. Just that simple. Just that simple. By the way, for me personally, this point was never driven home clearer to me. Then, many, many years ago, I got a chance to work in the earthquake area outside of Naples, Italy. I was going through some albums the other night and I came across pictures of this earthquake. Imagine this, for 100 square miles. Lives, houses, property, cars, gone in 38 seconds. 38 seconds. Imagine you left your house sometime today. Maybe you forgot something on the kitchen table. Maybe something in the driveway caught your eye. Imagine coming back tonight when nothing that you have is still standing. Nothing. And that's what these people felt like. And I used to go in and do community organizing. I would work with groups, very small groups, 6, 8, 10 people. And I would try to get them to vision how they would rebuild their village. And I would ask them pretty much the same questions. Why would you want to take a chance and rebuild your village? You're right on an earthquake fault line. This could happen again, 10 months, 10 years, whatever. But it's surely going to happen again. You know, everyone, I heard the same answers. My friends live here. My family lives down the road. I love living in this village. And I read between the lines what these people were really saying to me was, my friends and family come first in my life, and the things that I own second. Now, many of you here this evening are saying this guy's crazy. I'm going to go out and get all the stuff I want now, and then I'll deal with the priority of my life. People first, things second. So let me ask all of you in the room a question. If you can answer this question, I am willing to buy you dinner, any place of your choice. Any place of your choice. How do you know? How do you know that you don't only have 6 months to live? How do you know that you don't only have 6 months to live? I was speaking at a high school last month. A young girl who was supposed to have been at that assembly was killed driving home from a basketball game in the fog. Spoke at Romulus High School. Captain of the football team walked into school one day. 2 friends were fighting with another guy. He went to break up that fight. Somebody put a knife into his gut, and he died on the way to the hospital. I am sure those 2 people did not get up that morning and say, this is the last day of the rest of my life. There are no guarantees. No guarantees. Raise your hand in the room if you've been to a funeral in the last year. Now I want you to stop and think about this one. Raise your hand again if you went to this funeral in the last year of somebody who you thought died too young or died before their time. You know, everyone, it's devastating for all of us here, obviously myself included. You see, when we magically tell a friend, I'll see you later, I'll talk to you at school, I'll meet you, we actually expect that that person's going to be there in our lives. And when someone in our life breaks the chain, every single one of us here realizes we're only on borrowed time. So guess what? If you're waiting for the time in your life to figure out what your purpose is, if you're waiting for the time in your life to build a relationship with the Lord, if you're waiting for a time in your life to make a difference in someone's life or many people's lives, maybe there won't be that time. Maybe. I was both blessed and cursed to be one of the speakers at the 9/11 commemorative on the first anniversary. And 2 of my high school friends had died in that World Trade. I remember walking around it thinking, what can I possibly say? What can I possibly say? Nothing ever came to me for a while. And finally, I'm just walking around this empty pit. And it dawned on me how many people got up that morning with what I call unfinished business. Maybe they were working on a song. Maybe a relationship they needed to heal. Maybe just personal issues in their lives or their family. Whatever. And they went to work that day, business as usual, and never came home again. My friend had an angry, rageful fight with his son. Called his son a loser. Said you'll never amount to anything. I don't want you here when I come home. Well, obviously he never came home. And interestingly enough, his son spiraled in the last 10, 11 years to be the prophecy his dad predicted. Sleeps all day, parties all night, doesn't care. Dad left him a lot of money. Sometimes in the words that we say, that you say to your friends, that you say to people in this room, that you say to your family, sometimes the last words are just that, they're last words. So my feeling is if you can't say something positive, then walk away. But at least don't tear somebody down. Because ironically enough, what goes around comes around. And you just don't know. Again, no guarantees. No guarantees. Let me show you something. Anybody here got a $10 bill? Anybody? $5 bill will go. Anybody got a $5 bill? I figured the Lamborghini for sure.
He's Mustang.
That's my, can you stand up for a second? Help me out. Open that 5 for me. Now, can you tear it in half for me, please? Give it a shot. Tear it. Well, yeah, that's when you don't want to sign something usually. Go ahead, tear it in half, just a little bit more. A little bit more. Yeah, a little bit more. Go ahead. Just a tiny bit. You gotta go down and tear it in half. Everybody is going to say you can paste it back together. Go ahead. Tear it in half. Yeah, good.
My mom's invitation.
You can sit down. You know, everyone, I know people that have compromised their lives for this. I know people that have sold out for this. I am not, so that any of you leave here this evening the least bit unclear. I am not saying that this is not important. We run a whole society by this. I am simply saying to all of you who have got some big-time choices coming up in your life, if this is the only thing in your life that motivates you, if this is the only thing in your life you get up every day for, if this is the only thing in your life that has the slightest bit of meaning, there's never going to be enough. Never going to be enough. Let me show you something. Best guess in your life. How many people do you know that are truly, truly fulfilled and happy in their lives? Best guess. 2? 2? And then in your life, how many do you know? Hundreds? Thousands? Okay. Same question. 5. And in your life also, how many? Hundreds also, right? Same question.
6 or 7.
6 or 7. Okay, good. Okay. And in your life also hundreds. So we've got a grand total of maybe 12, 14 between the 3 of you that you know that are truly fulfilled and happy in their lives, as opposed to hundreds, maybe even to the thousands that you know. Everyone here, listen to those odds. I have crisscrossed all over the country, all kinds of different places, in the cities, in the country, in the most rural areas, in the most poverty-stricken areas. And ironically enough, those numbers are consistent that people have who know X amount, and it's usually maybe under 10. So based on those odds, there's maybe 25 or 30 of you in this room right now based on those odds, maybe in this whole room, 2, 3 of you that are going to be truly fulfilled and happy in their lives. Is it going to be you? 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 You, or you? Who knows? Who knows how much time you've got to deal with this? Again, no guarantees. No guarantees. Raise your hand in the room if you come from a divorced family. Mom and Dad. Anybody else? Okay. Now raise your hand individually and tell me, why do you think we lead the world in divorce? Why do you think there's so many divorces in this country now? First name. Go.
Well, it might have something to do with stress.
Yeah, it has a lot to do with stress, but that's good. Good answer. Thank you so much. Yes, first name.
Ryan.
Ryan, go.
People aren't satisfied with their lives, so they're searching for something more.
They're not satisfied with their lives and they're searching for something more. Powerful answer. Great answer, Ryan. Anybody else? Why do you think this we lead the world in divorce now? Yes, first name.
Peyton.
Yes.
They've had this suicide of two marriages, and they get rid of this one, they're always close.
Say that louder.
They lose sight of what true marriage is, and if they get rid of this one, there will always be something else, another one.
Before we continue on, I just want to say something to all of you. I wish that the people who make decisions for your lives, I wish they could be a fly on the wall right now to see the wisdom that you really possess. When you listen to these answers, just the last 3, they're really incisive, they're really on target, and they're great answers. So please, don't let anyone squelch your voice. You have something important to say. And if you don't say it, then you're part of the problem. And it's getting worse out there. More hatred, more violence, more problems, especially among youth. On the 26th, I'm speaking 3 miles from Newtown. That, for many people, was unimaginable, the ages of those kids. For someone to go in and take them out. It's shifting. And all of you are the hope. But unless you have a voice, that hope just dries up. Just dries up. Anyone else? Why do you think there's so many divorces in this country today? Yes, first name.
Cassidy.
Cassidy, go.
Because their relationship with each other isn't a priority.
Their relationship isn't a priority. Very good stuff, guys. Anybody else? Yes, first name.
Matthew.
Matthew, go.
Maybe they become too focused on money and they feel that their marriage is getting in the way of that.
Boy, I'm going to drive home with some great stuff tonight. You guys are phenomenal. Thank you. Anyone else? A couple more. First name. Anna May.
They work too much.
They work too much. Yeah, my dad was that perfect. That was perfect. That was an ideal, adjective for my dad. First name.
Brian,
Go, Brian.
because they make it an option.
They make it an option. If it wasn't an option, maybe they fight harder for it, but because it's an option, much easier to do. Those are all real phenomenal answers. But I have a question for every one of you here. Think people really know each other before they get married? What do we do when we meet somebody? We try to impress them. We try to tell them the best of who we are. People fall in love on the basis of that impression, They get married on the basis of that impression, and then they wake up one day and a completely different person has emerged, somebody who they don't even know. I have a good friend of mine in Detroit who's a divorce court judge. He says the biggest reason that people have for being in his courtroom is that the other person changed. The other person didn't change. The other person was in there in the first place. We're too busy sometimes wearing the mask. Kevin, where's that introduction?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Thank you very much. This lengthy introduction that Kevin read at the beginning of this talk, everyone, not me. It's not me. It's the things I did in my life. It's not the person who I am. The person who I am never sleeps the night before a talk. And I used to talk to almost 100,000 people a year all over the country. You see, I changed schools 5 times between grade school and high school. Left me with so many fears, so many insecurities, it's actually tough for me to get out in front of a room full of people. It's more difficult for me to meet you one-to-one. Grew up incredibly shy. If you had a party in this room, and I didn't know any of you, I'd walk through the doors, hope that somebody would make eye contact, hope somebody would just say something to me, smile, whatever. If everybody was too busy to do that or nobody did it, I'd walk around, look at some of the things on the walls. If still nobody did it, I'd leave. It's too difficult. Too difficult to walk up to somebody and say, "Hi, my name is Jim." Say hello to somebody. I got an interesting chance to speak in Australia. Came back. At that time, the biggest plane, 747-400 series, and it was packed. It was sitting in the center section, people on either side of me. I read the same newspapers, same magazines, over and over and over again, hoping that one person on either side would just start a conversation. When that didn't happen, I was just shut down. I was shut down. And because of this pain, I felt alone all the time. Because of this incredible shyness, I felt alone all the time. Many of you here tonight have come with that pain, that shyness, that difficulty. And it is a struggle, because then people don't really see who you are because you're too busy wearing the mask. Too busy wearing the mask. Raise your hand in the room if you have a best friend. Now, raise your hand individually, any of you, and tell me, what makes that person a best friend to you? Anybody? Why are they best friend in your life? Anyone? Yes, Peyton.
They'll tell me stuff that I don't want to hear, even though I need to hear it.
They'll tell you stuff that you don't want to hear, even though you need to hear it. Great. And by the way, if your best friend is not here tonight, when you leave, text them, email them, call them, write them a letter, do whatever. And let them know in front of a lot of people you said why they're important in your life. And I'll bet it will just even more solidify your relationship with that person. Anybody else? Yes?
Well, it might, it has something to do with the length you've known your best friend.
Absolutely. And that is important, because if it survives a length of time, then usually that's a person that's a keeper. So, good
Yeah,
stuff.
In my case, that'd be 16 years.
16 years, good stuff. Yes, Frank.
You can like, they're back there whenever you need them, and if you're feeling sad, they can make you feel better.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes,
They're available whenever you need them.
they're always there. Kind of an unconditional love. Yes.
I know that he'd do just about anything for me. He goes to college in Connecticut, but he said sometimes when I'm calling him, I said, and I'm sad, do you want me to get in the car and start driving?
Keeper.
Yup.
Keeper. Yes.
It's someone that you can like be yourself around.
Be yourself, 100%. What a gift. What a gift to have somebody like that. Anyone else? Best friend. Oh, I'm sorry.
You can talk to them whenever you're like having like troubles with your family issues with your somebody to talk to.
And they don't judge you, or they, they're honest with you. Again, a keeper. Question for all of you. Why didn't any of you here tonight say the reason that person was your best friend because of the grades they had, sports they played, cars they drove, money that they did or didn't have? Anybody? Yes?
Because that's temporary. The things that we've said, they don't change.
It's temporary. Anyone else? Yes?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter to you? Yes?
They don't really care. They just want you to accept them for who they
I want you to accept them for who you are. So best friends, what I determine best friends is that it's a safe place. A safe place where we can be unconditionally loved and accepted for who we are. And isn't that what our faith is about? Isn't that what our faith is about? So if you have that, you've got the greatest gift. But the big question is, when I asked you why didn't you say that that person was your best friend because of all those intangible things, then why do we struggle if we know in our heart, we know in our gut that that's not important? Then why do we still look at people and judge them? Why do we still look at people and think the things that basically that we think are very unimportant become important to us? When you can determine in your mind that answer, then you can go a long way. Let me show you something else that's not important. You killed tonight on the way home in an automobile accident. We're having a memorial service in this room for you. Want people to remember you for the Mustang? How do you want people to remember you? For the kind of person that you are. You're killed tonight on the way home in an automobile accident. We're having a memorial service in this room for you. Want people to remember you for the Lamborghini? How do you want people to remember you? Who you were and what you did. Isn't it interesting, everyone? Not more than 10 minutes ago, these two guys were prepared to do major damage, even kill me violently, with car parts and a wrecking ball over two cars they don't want to be remembered for. They were prepared to kill me violently over two cars they don't want to be remembered for. We compromise our lives. So simple. So simple. This is all I'm asking tonight of you. If you've tuned this out up until now, this is all I'm asking. I want you to stop. And in your head, I want you to ask one question. How do I want the people in my life who I love and who love me to remember me? How do I want the people in my life who I love and who love me to remember me? If some of you want to be remembered as a great friend, put that one up at the top of the list in your life and live that one out. If some of you want to be remembered as a person who was there when people needed you. Put that one up at the top of the list in your life and live it out. If some of you just want to be remembered as a person who cared, put that one up at the top of the list in your life and live it out. That's not to say don't go after a lot of money. That's not to say don't get the best job possible. That's not to say don't have a ton of friends. Simply saying to all of you, stop. Stop. And ask yourself, how do I want the people in my life who I love and who love me to remember me? Hope against hope, everybody. You also have the time to live that one out. Again, no guarantees. No guarantees. I grew up in kind of a macho family, at least with my dad. I would have given anything in the world for someone to have walked into a place where I was, asked me to raise my hand for my best friend. I would have given anything to raise my hand for my father. But I wasn't that fortunate. What I remember growing up as a kid is every time I go to open up, my father would say, "Hey, I can't be bothered. Keep a stiff upper lip. Go back to your room. Don't ever let me see you cry. Don't ever let me see you cry." A number of years ago, I had an interesting experience. I was in the middle of a talk, and the school got a call and said, "We got an emergency situation. Your dad had a series of heart attacks. He was in a hospital in New York. Sounds like you better take care of it." I don't remember anybody finishing the talk. I do remember getting on the first plane, getting to New York. My brother was already there. Walking into my father's hospital room, seeing my father laid out in a coma, intravenous bottles coming out, tubes sticking out, although his eyes were closed. And I remember walking over and putting my hand on his shoulder. And I sat down in the chair. And I watched my father move in and out, you know, kind of a nether state there. And there was a chance to talk to him. And I wanted at that moment to tell my father how much I loved him. I wanted to tell him he was special. I wanted to tell him he had made a difference in my life. I couldn't do it. All those old tapes kept playing in my head. I couldn't say it. I wanted to tell him I loved him. He was important. And I couldn't find the words. Everyone, I couldn't find the words. I spent a couple of days going back and forth to the hospital and watching him in different states. And I still was not able to say it. My father survived the heart attacks. And I had essentially a second chance to tell him that I loved him. I had a speaking engagement in New York. A couple months later, I called him up and I said, "Pop, I need to get together with you. Something I wasn't able to tell you in the hospital. So let's get together for dinner, you and I." Well, everyone, he gave me the perfect out. He said, "Jim, I got dinner plans. What about lunch?" I had programs, I had meetings, I had other commitments, television stuff. I rearranged my whole day to get to that restaurant half an hour early to tell him for the first time in my life that I loved him. And I was so scared, everyone. What words were going to make him not put me down? What words were going to make him not laugh at me? What words were going to make him not be silent, which was my father's and sometimes most effective weapon? What words? And I got to that restaurant a half an hour early trying to find those words. So nervous. Got up, started walking around the block. I got lost in time in my head and looked at the clock and realized I was 15 minutes late, tore back into that restaurant. My father was sitting there. He's Mr. Punctuality, and sure enough, the first thing he did, everybody, was jam me. Why are you 15 minutes late? You know I've only got an hour for lunch. When are you going to be on time? And I looked at this guy and I said, no way. No way was I going to tell him. No way. But I looked back at my father. He lost a lot of weight from the heart attacks, and I didn't think I was going to have a chance to say this again. So I grabbed my father's hands across the table, and I said, Dad, thanks for being there so many times when I needed you. Thanks for standing by me in my life. I really love you. And I put my head down. I was hoping he wouldn't hear a word. Everyone, it was the last reaction I could have ever imagined. For the first time in my life, I can't remember when I saw it. I watched my father cry. And I came around the table. And I put my arms around him. And I held him. And we were both crying together. That was the first time in my life I knew that in some ways he really did love me. And I got together with him the next morning for breakfast. And he told me something that would kind of blow me out of the water. He said, Jim, I might have gone to my grave because my grandfather, who was distant, never really told me he loved me. So I wasn't able to tell you that I loved you. All of us inherited the history of our lives from people throughout our life. Parents, grandparents, and goes back further. We've all inherited this. And many of us keep passing it on. I'm asking you tonight, stop the madness. Stop the madness. Give yourselves a chance so that when you have a family, it's not going to be all of this dysfunction that you inherited. It's going to be because you could face things, you could be healthier, you could be open, and you could do what you do with your best friend, which is to be real and honest and sincere. Stop the madness. Let me show you how that madness affects all of us. Raise your hand in the room if you can remember your most painful moment. Raise your hand in the room if you can remember your most painful moment. Hold your hands up. How long ago?
About a year ago.
How long?
6 months.
How long?
2 years ago.
2 years. How long?
4 months.
4 months. How long?
A year ago.
A year ago. How long?
Like 7 years ago.
7 years ago. Anybody else? Yes.
3 years.
3 years ago. Yes.
Probably
8 years ago. What? Yes.
1 year ago.
1 year ago. What just happened in the room now, everybody? I didn't ask you to tell me your most painful moment. I just asked you to remember it. And you brought it back as if it happened yesterday. How old are you? 16. 8 years ago. And he brought it back just as if it happened yesterday. These moments, in some cases, define our lives. They define our lives. They define our ability to get close to people. They define our trust, they define our love. So when these moments come up in your head, then you're going to have to fight back and say, I'm not going to go down this road again. Again. First time I told a story about my dad, a young girl was moved to get up out of her seat to go and call her father, who was in Crittenden Hospital, tell him for the first time in her life that she loved him. And her father, who was so excited to hear those words, that he said, come on over, I need to be with you. She got over there, it was a morning program, got over there at 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. Her and her dad just unloaded all the stuff that had been sitting inside of them. It was 2 hours past visiting time. And her dad said, you look tired. Go home. She said, no, I'm not going home, Dad. No, no. He said, you've been here all day. Don't be ridiculous. It's a beginning for us. She said, this is the closest we've ever been, Dad. The closest we've ever been. He said, make an old man happy. Go home. I'll see you first thing in the morning tomorrow. Everyone, reluctantly, she went home. At 7:30 the next morning, her father died on the operating table. And I got a call from her the first day of grief to thank me. Thank me for giving her the courage to tell her father how much she cared. And the words were so powerful. I've got them up on my bulletin board. And every time I leave to go out of town for a talk, or local for a talk, put my hands on those words. Because I don't want to ever forget what this is about. What she said to me was, Jim, we had a lot of time together, and yet we had no time together. I spoke up in the UP. A young girl wasn't so lucky. She waited till after school to tell her father how much she cared. She raced home. Her father, who was cleaning out the garage, there was an EMS truck, an ambulance in the driveway. Her father, who was 38 years old, had dropped dead of a heart attack. 38 years old! And I got a call from her the first day of grief. And she said, Jim, I know you get a chance to talk to thousands of people in your life. Tell them not to wait. Tell them I waited a half an hour too long. I wish for all of you that raised your hands who lost somebody in the last year, 5 years, 10 years, wish I could bring that person back for just a few minutes. But I can't. The next best thing I can do, and the greatest love that you can give in tribute to that person that you lost, is to continue their love to all the people in your life. All the people in your life. Because all of you can make a difference. And all of you can be the hope. Unless you think one person can't make a difference. Let me tell you a story of an 18-year-old girl that changed my life. I went in the Red Robin restaurant in Madison Heights on John R. and sat down, and the waitress comes over and she says, what would you like to drink? And I said, I'll have a Diet Coke. And she says, oh, I'm so sorry, we only have Pepsi products. And I said, you know, I really wanted a Diet Coke. I said, but water would be great. She looks at me and she says, do you really want a Diet Coke? And I said, well, yeah, that would be great, but I understand. She says, well, let me see what I can do to make that happen. And I thought, what are you talking about? She said, there's a 7-Eleven across the street. I'll run over and get you a Diet Coke. Well, I got up, gave her a hug, and said, you know, just the gesture alone was phenomenal. was June 6th, six and a half years ago. She comes running back in the restaurant. A few minutes later, on her tray are 2 Diet Cokes, and she'd been running, and there was beads of sweat on her forehead because it was so humid. I did all the obligatory things, everybody. Gave her a big tip, told her manager, even called the corporate office. But I left that day with one single mission for me. I said, if she at 18 years old can go the extra mile, then I can get up every single day and find somebody that I can help or support or care about or make their lives even just a little better. And from that moment until tonight, there has not been one day when it has not been conscious to me of how to be able to do it. And that's the key. That's the key. I designed this bracelet, and I have some here, and I don't have enough because I think I gave out some last week, a lot more than I thought. But this white bracelet, what it says is happy people live outside themselves. That means if you're really about being happy, it's not living within your own problems and your own challenges and your own difficulties. It's about looking around, because real service on this earth is about consciousness, being conscious. Being conscious. And sometimes it's in the smallest things, sometimes it's in the biggest things. I was at Myers the other night, and it was raining, and it was very cold. And nothing had appeared to me that day. And I was looking around and went over to my car and realized there was just a ton of carts in the parking lot. People just left their carts. They didn't even bring it back to the cart corral. They just left them. And I thought, well, I need to do something, and I took the carts and I started going one to another, to another, to another. And I probably had 15, 20 carts by the time, I was pushing them towards the front. And the cart boy comes out and he screams at me like I was stealing these carts. And I told him what I was doing and why I was doing it. And he just puts his arms around me. He says, I do this every single night, in the worst of weather sometimes, and nobody understands how difficult this is for me. But you cared enough to understand. And he was crying. He was crying. One of the best ones for me was I was at a Tigers game in September, and I was right behind first base. And a little boy, probably 7 or 8 years old, was going up to the railing, and he had his mitt, and he was going up to the railing, and along with all the taller, older, adults and kids, and when they throw the ball in, always the taller ones would get the ball. So I knew this kid was never going to get a ball. Never. But he kept going up every inning with that little bit of hope. And then he walked back dejected and punched his mitt. Well, it was about the maybe 6th, 7th inning, and I decided I'm going to do something. And I walked up to the mezzanine level, and I bought a ball. And as I was scuffing the ball along the wall, make it look like a game ball, I walked down to the railing. And in between innings, everybody changed again. And when everybody separated to go back to their seats, I said, "Hey, kid," I threw him the ball. Well, everyone, you thought I'd given him a transplant. That's how excited he was. He kept throwing the ball in his mitt. He had this big smile on my face, covering the ball in his mitt. Anyway, he and his grandfather go to leave an inning later, and I'm sitting in my seat. I glance over, realize he's walking up the stairs, and my hand goes about halfway up. And he spins around. And he takes a picture of me. Will I ever see this kid again? Probably not. Will there always be a connection? Absolutely. Every one of you here can do this. Every one of you here can do this. I speak in schools in the loneliest places, the lunchroom. So what I'm asking all of you to do when you leave tonight is make a conscious effort tomorrow morning. When you go to lunch tomorrow, that you'll look around and you'll see the people eating lunch by themselves. And go over them and say, would you like to join us? They may say no, but they'll never forget that you asked them. If you see somebody by their locker and they look down and you met them or whatever, go up and say, hey, you okay? They may say, oh yeah, I'm great, fine. They may not be, but they'll never forget that you asked. The single denominator that I believe in my heart that can make this world a lot better is this conscious caring that we all are capable of, but we don't do. We don't do. Years ago, I was privileged in Chicago to go to a conference where John Lennon from the Beatles spoke. And there was about probably 5,000 that wanted to be there. That was in the Beatles' heyday. Anyway, I was standing in the back and Lennon came up to the side curtain, to the microphone, out of the side curtain to the microphone, and barely above a whisper, he said to everybody in the room, I am no more talented than any of you. Nobody heard him. I nudged the guy next to me and said, what did he say? And Lennon realized it because he was very soft-spoken. So he comes back up to the mic and he says again, I am no more talented than any of you. Sure enough, a guy in the back raised his hand and said, hey, John, how can you tell us we are nobodies? The world is singing your music, your concerts are standing room only. He said the only difference between myself and you is if I've got a song inside, if I've got a dream in my gut, I can have somebody write it, somebody promote it, somebody play it, and hopefully somebody buy it. Every one of you can make something happen in your lives. But it doesn't mean anything if we put you in the center of this room and we all gathered around you to tell you how great you are, if you don't buy it. Here's my hope. And I've had this happen, gosh, endless times. I live here in Royal Oak, and if you see me in a mall someplace and, you know, at an event or whatever, come up and say, hey, Jim, I heard you speak 5, 10, 15 years ago. I want you to know I'm going after my dreams, feeling great about myself. Most of all, I'm giving to a whole lot of people in my life. And everyone, I'll walk away with an incredible smile on my face. Every one of you, every one of you can make a difference on this earth. Every single one of you. And none of you here tonight, even though you may not realize it, none of you ever have to go it alone. You never have to go it alone. I want to give you, just kudos and thank yous. I'm a little bit shot, and I've given you what I could give you tonight. But I want to thank you for giving me the space and helping me out, helping me with, get through this talk. I really care. I really care. And I struggle to keep moving forward to share this. And this is my mission, this is my purpose, this is my gift from God. So thank you guys. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for that. There are some scraps of the dollar, or actually $5. Just take one, please. It's not,
This is good.
no. Just take one, for you. Okay. There are some scraps of the bill on the floor. And I've got some more in my pocket. Long after you forget about anything that we've shared tonight. Anything. Anything you're feeling now. And I would hope that you'll go out and go in the lunchroom tomorrow and you'll really look around and start to look around. But again, you know, I can only put this out. This comes from my heart, which is all that I think in the end people ever remember, is your heart. But it's up to you now to do something with it. Anyway, I've got some more bills in my pocket. You know, there's scraps on the floor. Again, long after you forget about this tonight, if you're in your room one night thinking, you know, nothing is working in my life, pull out a piece of the bill. Remember, people first, things second. And again, you'll never be alone. Never be alone. Kev wanted me to ask you, you know, just whatever you choose to ask me, you know, I'll answer it as candidly and as honestly as I possibly can. But, you know, Kev asked me if there's any questions, any concerns, anything that, you know, is moving you now, anything that you're going to take action with, regardless of whatever it is that you're feeling. Anybody. Anybody.
Jim.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
I had lunch tomorrow, so just help people out in every way that I feel.
You're a sweetie. Let me give a hug.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Jim, let's start with how old you are, if you don't mind sharing.
Not in the least. I'm 71. And you see how much energy I put out, so you can imagine when the crowd is 2,000, how much energy I put out, because this is what my purpose is. This is what I was supposed to be doing on this earth. And if you find that purpose for yourself, it's just like that poster there that I designed. Actually, I designed that for, and at the bottom you see in very small letters, for a woman that was best man at my wedding that died a few years ago from mouth cancer. But it says, when you find your purpose, it is God's gift to you. When you fulfill your purpose, it is your gift to God. And I believe that with every fiber of my being, and that's me in the jester's outfit hugging a kid. So.
Tuman, can you tell them about parade crashing? A little bit.
I have an unusual hobby. Probably as unusual as anybody that you'll ever meet. I jump in parades in different costumes. I've done over 150 different parades all around the world in different costumes, and I have a big following of people that come and do parades with me. This is so much fun, and it's so interesting, and you can honor the child in you. So my life has been very eclectic. I was a circus clown, I was a rodeo rider, I actually sat in with the Detroit Symphony, been around the world a number of times, been to over 100 countries, and it's been, very, very, very different life. And I got married actually for the first time 7 years ago. And I fall more in love with my wife every day. And it's just, you know, because I never saw too many great marriages, and I was always frightened. But I now marry the woman of my dreams, and I wish that, you know, God would give me more time on this earth so that, you know, I can continue to love her, because I do. Anyone else? Anything that's feelings about any of this? What does it mean to you that you have no guarantees? What does it mean? Yes.
I had that wake-up call a little bit less than a year ago when I found out that my dad's best friend from college had terminal brain cancer. He died 4 months ago. And that was my big wake-up, that at 45 years old, he was going to die. And I was one of the lucky ones because I got to say goodbye. And I wrote him a letter 2 weeks before he died that said everything I ever wanted to say. And I got a letter back saying I would always be his daughter. So, thank you for being a person.
Anyone else have?
Before you guys leave, everyone's...
That was really beautiful that you got up and that you acknowledged, you know,
Thank you.
her pain, her challenges, her difficulties. That's why your lunchtime thing will be a huge success. It really will. If anything, you know, captures your thoughts process tonight, post it on my Facebook page. I have a lot of people, lots and lots of people on my Facebook page. And post it and just let me know what you're thinking and feeling, because your words can influence a lot of other people. And that's why I'm asking you not to be silent. And I'm asking you to really take a look at, you know, what you can do as a person. Because again, I call it flowers for the living. Many times, you know, I was in New York when JFK Jr. died, and when Princess Diana died, both times. I was in New York speaking, and I was there just on, you know, for fun. And so many people put these huge bouquets of flowers on places where both of them either lived or walked, or you know, on the steps in front or whatever, and couldn't even go home to their own families and tell their own families that they loved. So I call it flowers for the living, which means that not only, you know, should you honor, and it was nice that they honored the people, you know, JFK Jr., but more important is to go home and be present with your own family, and let your own family know that you know, that you love them and how important that they are. And even if they've hurt you and made your life difficult, they need to hear it. And sometimes in that hurt and pain, like with my dad, you can break through. You can break through. Anyone else?
All right, we're already past 6:30, Jim, so some of these guys might have to take off soon. But before you guys leave, everyone give everyone in the room 10 hugs at least, okay? So make sure you give someone, and hug someone you don't know too.
Pick up pieces of the bill. Let me know, because
Jim has some posters too.
I brought some additional posters, and I brought the bracelets. Let me know if any of you want a bracelet, whatever. If you take it, please take it with the intention that you're going to share it with people and you're going to keep it going. You want to pull out the bracelets?
Yes, and follow Jim on Facebook and Twitter. Jim, tell them how many times you've turned a computer on in your life.
Oh, hit me up.
I've never turned the computer off.
He has somebody do his Facebook and Twitter for him. Yeah.
Yeah, just take one, maybe two of these, you know, but take them with the intention that you're going to put them up, because otherwise, that's my newest one. That's dedicated, you'll see that at the bottom, that's dedicated to the kids that were shot at Newtown.
And guys, as a youth minister, I've learned everything that I know from Greg in terms of that. For all the hip hop that I do, though, it's coming from Jim Tuman. So he's a hip hop artist. He's Santa Claus. He's Rocky. Check him out on YouTube. He's a great guy. Let's give one more round of applause, guys.
There's a lot of other things in there. If you see something, you might want to spread them out. You see there's some on the walls that I noticed that are, are just an idea of everything. So.
That's what I thought it was.
If you guys want to talk to Jim too, he'll be around after you go and talk to him one-on-one.
And if you don't get a bracelet, just let me know, and I will send one to you.
Where's your Russell Jameson for one?
Jameson, let's go.
No, I'm just messing.
I don't see that. I never do. I saw like hundreds of women everywhere.
All right, guys.
Thank you, guys. Anybody want a piece of the bill too?
And say thank you to Jim too before you leave, okay? Just say thanks to Jim before you leave, guys.